think we can grab our seats as it's 11 o'clock. We need to be punctual, and I think we can start. Welcome everyone to Esthub's Vision Day 2025. My name is Charlie, and I'm honored to be your moderator for today as we explore the latest in remote sensing, space collaboration, and cutting-edge machine learning applications. Today we will hear about from experts from all across Europe, sharing ideas, tools, and missions for how Earth observation can support smarter decisions and innovation here in Estonia and beyond. I would also like to remark that the Vision Day today will be recorded for internal purposes to help us review and reflect on the event, but recordings will not be made public or shared externally without the speaker's permission. So let's kick things off with a warm welcome and some insight from the Liias Spatial Development Board, who plays a key role in coordinating space data infrastructure here at home. So a round of applause for the Director General of Liias Spatial Development Board, Kati Tamtik.
Good morning to everybody. Hello and warm greetings. Very nice to see so many here. This year we celebrate Esthub Vision Day for the 6th time already. So it is an event that has brought together and united professionals from every experience, all of whom share a connection to their work or personal interest in remote sensing. The event is a place to share ideas, learn from each other, explore ways to work together, and of course spark new ideas. Over the years, the event has evolved, and today we host it as a new organization. So we are not anymore Estonian Land Board. Now we are Estonian Land Spatial Development Board. Our organization has been a reliable manager of Esthub. Now we aim to integrate it more centrally and become a greater user of its data and capabilities in-house. And we would like to be a very good partner for you. Esthub, as a satellite data center, is more than just a data storage. It also provides computing capabilities, services, and platforms for data processing and operations. It also brings together experts through the Remote Sensing Council, creating a collaborative space where innovation and expertise actually can meet. Being the national access point for Copernicus satellite data and serving as a competent center for geospatial information creates the perfect synergy for advanced spatial planning and data-driven decision-making. Apart from supporting public sector companies with their work processes, we strive to enable a competitive advantage for Estonian businesses to pioneer in the Baltic and Nordic region. Over the years, Esthub has accumulated various interesting use cases and developed operational services, but these are just few examples of many. When we consider areas like forestry, agriculture, food monitoring, and also land improvement, it's clear that they provide vital components and data essential to the planning process. The question is how? How do we currently see the role of Esthub in spatial planning? What are the possibilities and opportunities? Can these use cases be practically applied in the planning process? I assume you know the answer, and the answer is yes. Esthub can support every stage of the planning process, from gathering and analyzing precise geospatial data to modeling development scenarios and identifying strategies for sustainable growth. All solutions that adapt to changing conditions and consider future prospects. Planning processes may seem static, and so far, updating data and approving plans has been slow. Too slow in Estonia, you know it already. And during this time, nature and the environment can change significantly. This is something that we need to change here in Estonia. The planning process are in reality dynamic frameworks. They must continuously evolve in conditions such as environmental changes, population growth, and technological advancements. Satellite data plays a key role in introducing this dynamic element, providing real-time insights and enabling planners to make informed adjustments to long-term plans. This blend of stability and adaptability is what ensures that planning remains relevant and effective over time. Satellite data can serve as a supporting data source for making informed decisions. Different types of spatial data have their own advantages and disadvantages, but when skillfully combined, they allow us to create smarter solutions. With the ongoing developments in Esthub, we aim to expand our user base and work together to implement new, innovative, and most importantly, sustainable and high-quality solutions that not only advance the finance sector but also contribute to shaping the living environment around us. So I hope all of you find a little bit of spark here from today's event. I wish you a great day and thank you.
Thank you, Kati, for your welcoming words. And now, without further ado, we are very honored to have with us a leading voice from the European Space Agency. So please welcome Simonetta, Cheli, the director of ESA's Earth observation programs.
Thank you, Kati, Director General, for hosting us here at the occasion of this Esthub event. I understand it's a recurring event. It's already a few years it's organized. And I'm very happy to see also colleagues that I know from the Estonian delegation, Paul, the lead of the Estonian delegation to ESA, but many scientists and industry representatives here, some of which I already knew from previous connections. So here today to give you an overview and a little bit of feeling of what we are doing, and we're currently developing an Earth observation program. What are the plans and somehow also the opportunities for the science community and also as an industrial sector. So the current Earth observation program of the European Space Agency is of course part of ESA. You know, ESA is a intergovernmental organization. We're celebrating this year the 50th anniversary, and we're celebrating at the same time the 10th anniversary of Estonia joining ESA. So really a milestone, I would say, 2025. And in this context, the agency has today 23 member states. The last one to join was Slovenia this year. And we have really a remit of activities which goes from developing technologies in space, organizing the infrastructure which is associated to launcher, the contribution of Europe to the International Space Station, the science mission, but in the field of which I'm responsible, I'm the director of Earth observation, the application area, we also work on programs related to Earth observation, telecommunication, and satellite navigation. Today, we have really a mandate with quite a few sites in Europe, a headquarters, which is in Paris, and also a place, an establishment in Italy, Visa, former head, which is really working on the remit of what we're discussing here today. The valorization of the wealth of the Earth observation data sets that we have, the demonstration of the use of those data into the science community, and also the value that those data can provide to creating an economic value-added sector with products and services. Today, the investment of European citizens in space is about 15 euros per citizen per year. We have an overall budget at ESA, which is of the order of 7.7 billion euros. And that budget is considered quite low in, I would say, in great terms, it looks big. But if you compare it to the investments worldwide in space, if you look at the US, for example, it's about 6 times the NASA budget compared to the ESA one. And overall, there's a very strong, I would say, messaging collectively from Europe, European Union, ESA member states to say we need to invest more in this domain overall, just through ESA, also through the European international activity, because of the strategic relevance. Today, we're in a context of evolving geopolitical world. We need more autonomy. We need more strategic independence. And really, everything that's related to space has a very strong science dimension, has a very strong economic dimension, and also a strategic one. And so there's quite a reach for trying to increase overall the investments associated to the sector, also because you can see the relevance for the society, for the civil society, for the challenges like the climate change one, for challenges like sustainability, and of course, resilience and security. Today, the budget of ESA, the Earth observation, corresponds to about 34% of the annual budget of the 7 billion. Means a lot of opportunities because we run those budgets through tendering process. We run those budgets. This is just all the tendering that the spending that has to be done this year through mechanisms where all industries from all the European countries that have contributed can participate. So quite an important big chunk of the overall budget of ESA that we're managing, but this is not by chance. It's because the countries of ESA have recognized in the past few years in those investments the relevance of climate challenges, the relevance of better managing sustainable resources, water, agriculture, we mentioned now, forestry, but also the challenges related to resilience. You've seen recently the increase of disaster events, extreme weather events. So it's not by chance that this is today such an important domain in the agency's activities. The establishment which I lead is the one, as I said, in Italy, in Frascati, but my teams are spread all over the various ESA sites. But there's really the Center for Earth Observation. It's considered the reference center in Europe, and I would say in the world, for having the expertise in terms of using the data, in terms of working on geospatial information system. And this is really also what your experts here today understand, in terms of also integrating the value of the digital technologies into the traditional world of just building the satellites and using and distributing the data set. And that's really the core of what we do at ESRIN at the ESA site in Frascati, where we do the mission management of those Earth observation missions, where we actually understand the user requirements and try to plan the satellite according to what's needed in terms of data, what's needed in terms of distribution of those data, and these days also what's needed according to the needs of making sure the data are accessible to everybody in terms of good quality, but also in terms of robustness, for example, from cyber attacks or geopolitical situation. And that's really what we do at the site which I lead. But Earth observation is much wider than that. So my directorate has teams on the various ESA sites in Holland, in the UK, in Paris, and in Frascati, of course, because what we do is we prepare for future mission. So we develop technologies, which are preparatory technologies, studies for which are the future mission to be developed. And those missions are in the meteorological field, in the science field, and in the Copernicus, where we work with the European Union together. And of course, Estonia has a Copernicus hub and is very active on that program. We also, as I said, organize the mission management. It means we organize through the Operation Control Center of ESA in Germany how the satellites and when the satellites should pass over which area to correspond to requirements of coverage, of repetitivity. And normally satellites like Copernicus, for example, have an average 5 days repeat cycle over the same area of the world. They have about 10 meters average, but we're with the new systems improving that resolution. We're going towards, for example, a satellite optical one called Sentinel-2. The next generation will go from 10-meter resolution to 5-meter resolution. So that's the type of iteration that you have in the mission management. What's needed for which type of users and when. Another very important element I would like to mention here for you as a community of both scientists and industries is the fact that our data are free and open. So they have a provision of a data policy which really allows everybody to access the data freely. That's extremely relevant for the science community, not just in Europe, worldwide, I would say, but also extremely relevant for those who are willing to make value added, to make economic value and potentially do commercial business out of those data sets. Free and open means that the value is not inherent just of the data you get. It's inherent to the information that you derive from that data. What can you do with it? What value added can you provide? Are you going to give a product that shows the land cover or the land use over a certain area? Are you going to prepare a product that shows the evolution of the deforestation over an area, or in the Arctic, the evolution of ice? And that's really where the valve comes, both from the science side and the value-added sector. We have a lot of application. I'm here with my colleague, Gordon Campbell, who's really the expert on the application domain. He works since over 30 years with scientists on one side to show and demonstrate to the scientists, help them to understand, develop tools, methodologies, and also really have, I would say, forefront demonstration projects with the science community of the use of the EO data. But he's also working with the user institutional community. And here I know there's some decision makers. So he's working from water management institutions to the European Environment Agency, Coast Guards, and also entities that manage everything that's related to sustainability, to forest, and basically institutional users that need those data to really either implement their policies or use it in terms of daily applications. And that's the job that we are organizing also at ESA. That's the real expertise we have. And that's where I think Estonia has come a long way in the last 10 years in terms of acquiring really an expertise, getting a know-how, and also teaming up with other centers of expertise in terms of scientific, but also industrial one in Europe, learning from what we had already done in some other areas. Because what is really interesting is if you develop a world cereal product, and we started doing the classification of the agriculture in the Czech Republic like a few years ago, then you can use that same product to support the common agricultural policy implementation. And you can use it at home also in Estonia. You can see droughts, not just in Spain. I mean, a methodology, once it's developed, it's really useful for many countries and many applications. Last but not least, we also work a lot on innovation, and Estonia is certainly a key country on innovation at the forefront in terms of using AI, in terms of being able to combine those digital technologies into the traditional world of Earth observation. That's really an effort that we've been developing in the last few years also in ESA and Earth observation, where we are really valorizing the wealth of the data we have. We have over 300 terabytes per day of Copernicus data, and we have data in the archives from over 30 satellite partner missions, Japan, US, since 40 years. And this wealth of data can only be used and valorized if you integrate the available technologies, if you use new platforms, if you rationalize the combination of those resources. And we have an innovation laboratory that's looking into all of that. For example, it's a laboratory that recently has worked with an insurance company to look at how you can use your data in terms of doing damage assessment from hail, just as an example of demonstration and innovation activity. We have also, since a couple of years in Esri now, Science Hub. This is a new hub that hosts regularly scientists from all over Europe and all over the world. We have, in fact, 43 nationalities on site at Esri. We host experts. For example, we have these days experts in the Arctic who work on the Arctic evolution. They work on 3D models of the Arctic. They do what is called digital twins of the Earth on different thematics. We're currently developing a prototype on a digital twin of the Earth in terms of extreme weather events, one related to climate change and one related to Arctic, and also one related to the hydrology of the Mediterranean. So topics where scientists come, they work with us, they exchange the ideas, they use that best data. By the way, since 2 weeks, we have also a high computing capability in Esri that can support all that work in terms of managing high volumes of data and elaborating those data. So I would strongly advise that you connect also to my colleagues there and see, because there's great potential, I think, for the Estonian community. We also manage a charter of natural disaster. This is a tool that puts resources from 17 space agencies which have Earth observation missions worldwide. You have the Argentinians, the Japanese, the Americans, the Indians, many more. It works in the context, it was started in the context of the UN, but it's really an operational mechanism whereby whenever there is a disaster in every area of the world, including, unfortunately, the latest 2 days ago in Myanmar and all the region, this charter is activated, and then we look at which are the data sets and the data available in the archives over that area, which are the satellites that are passing next over the area interest. We task someone, and we have products on the site which are available and to be used by civil protection agencies, UN agencies, not just to see the damage, to see if the street is still there, if an area is flooded. This is a very powerful tool that puts together capabilities from space agencies worldwide, which is coordinated and organized by ESA through my teams. I mentioned the digital twins. This is a relatively new project that Estonia has been contributing to this program that was started a few years ago. It is about the idea of not just building the satellites, not just launching the satellites and operating them. The idea is to valorize the use of the data you have, to put those into prediction modeling systems of what if scenarios which are also useful for citizens, for decision makers. If you look at how the Earth will look like if there is a 1-degree temperature increase, you have certainly a very powerful tool to know what needs to be done or what's the impact of the actions you're taking. And I'm going tonight with my colleagues to ECNWF, the European Center for Medium Weather Forecast. We have a very close collaboration with them. They use data from our mission to look at predictive forecasting, but they also work with us on this digital twin initiative to look at forecasting and evolutionary models. And there is a complementary program of the European Union that we have been delegated funds. It's a program from DG Connect, the Director General for Connectivity and Digital Agenda, which is working on Destiny. And I suggest that we have launched last year in Finland a platform for this Destiny project. It's open. You should go see it and see if it's useful for your needs. And it's also a platform that collects data sources that don't tell you if it comes from satellite X or Y. De facto, you don't care which satellite it comes from, but it's a platform that shows you the usefulness of the data for a specific thematic. And that's really what it is about. And I think that's also what Esthub, from this morning discussions we had with Kati, the colleagues, and Paul, it's aimed to do and would like to reinforce in terms of strengthening its expertise. So there's already quite some tools, quite some initiative available that you could benefit from in collaborating with, and I'm sure we'll follow up from today to see how to better help Estonia to reinforce Esthub in this context. We worked on many things, but one thing that ESA has been doing for many years, I had the privilege to be in Johannesburg at the World Summit on Sustainable Development. All the UN environmental conventions were developed from that meeting, and including the UNFCCC Convention on Climate Change, but the one on Ramsar, the one on desertification. And ESA has been supporting all those environmental conventions since over 20 years. We worked very actively in the context of the Climate Change Convention, where you know that there are over 54 variables which have been identified as parameters of information that you need to monitor if you want to know the evolution of climate and climate change. And ESA is working on 27 of those variables in a program which is called Climate Space, but tomorrow is Future EO for the ministerial, so you know it. We have a dedicated team working with scientists from all over Europe, and that team is looking at parameters like air quality, sea level rise, permafrost, snow, and all what is related to the climate variables that you need to keep track of to know what's the state of our environment, what is the climate challenges that we need to face. And I think it's very interesting because it's a program that more and more has a strategic value in terms of science relevance, but also in terms of adaptation impact of what we can do with satellites in terms of adaptation and also mitigation, of course, related to climate change. I mentioned you this innovation laboratory. In fact, it's a funny story. It's a nice story. We went a few years ago with my boss to Silicon Valley in the US to look at what was the success model of space and startup, also outside the space scenario of success stories, and why did they succeed on having so many startups related to space. At the time, we went to Google, we went to SpaceX, we went to many companies, also a lot of startups, Spire, Planet, and a few of those. And we understood that basically in Europe, we're too slow in putting together contractual setups, in giving contracts to companies who have good ideas, who need to go fast. when they have a good idea to implement those. And also they need access to venture capital. So we organized this FILAB, which is a laboratory located again in Esrin, where we have the expertise of my colleagues, which are really experts in Earth observation, but not only. They're also helping companies who have good ideas to access venture capital. We have over 70 agreements today in ESA with venture capital institutions, and they also help in getting perspective of a solid commercial dossier, teaming up also with other industries and really validating the demonstration of some products or services that can be developed using geodata. And there's some connections already with some actors here, also on the upstream, so not just the value-added sector, but also on the technology development. We help new companies to increase their TRL level and get to a level where potentially really have a potential commercial perspective in the wider European or worldwide context. Today, this is the program that we manage at ESA in Earth observation, quite a challenging one, as I was telling you. We have 16 satellites in operation from the freelance. Of course, we have the meteorological mission, we have the science mission, and we have the Copernicus under the leadership of the European Union. On the meteorological missions, ESA was the one to launch in 1977 the first Meteosat program, but today we still continue to fund and develop the new missions of meteorology, the one that represent way ahead and innovation and next step. We're launching in July MTGS with a sounder on board. It's meteorology third generation geostationary program, which is with EUMETSAT. And in August, we will launch METOP second generation, again, a meteorological program of advanced generation. In the science field, we have a lot of missions. They're called Explorers. They're a little bit like the NASA, the CADAL plan missions. Last year, we launched one called Erki, which looks at the role that cloud and aerosols play in shielding the radiation from the sun towards the Earth. We just released the level 2 data sets open to the science community 2 weeks ago. Big success story, also collaboration with Japan. Japan has provided a cloud profiling radar instrument on board this mission, and really a success story of how you can also contribute to monitor climate change on a specific domain, which is the Earth radiation. We will launch end of April, the 29th of April. The next science mission is called Biomass. It's an explorer mission. We're really looking forward to the satellite with a P-band radar on board that will look particularly at the healthiness of tropical forests, and we look at the health of the vegetation, of the diversity of the vegetation in the tropical regions. And of course, you imagine how important it is when you look at CO absorption and all this CO2 cycle. And we have other missions like soil moisture, also salinity, that look at droughts, look at the hydrology of the terrain. So quite a variety of scientific mission, incredibly relevant for not just the science community, also for concrete application. Just let me tell you something. SMOS, which looks at the hydrology of the terrain, was used, unfortunately, a posteriori of the Valencia area to see that really the Valencia area, which was flooded with catastrophic event, was already, in terms of the terrain, full of water and really saturated before the rain started. And so these are very important missions, which have not just a pure science element, but really an element of contributing to predictive models, I would say. Last but not least, Copernicus. You all know Copernicus. Success story of Europe overall. Estonia has a Copernicus hub, and we're using the data, and Copernicus is continuous satellite in series, ABCD. We have today quite a few up and running. The radar mission with Sentinel-1, we launched the last one in December, is working fine. We're in the phase of commissioning that satellite. We have Sentinel-2, which is optical, but we have also Sentinel-5P with a troponin instrument on board looking also at methane or air quality. We have some like Sentinel-3 looking at the temperature of the sea. You know how important it is when last year was the hottest ever recorded year in history. So these are the Sentinel satellites. What ESA does here, it builds the satellite with the European industry support. It distributes the data. It launches the satellites, and It operates jointly with EUMETSAT. Some missions are operated by EUMETSAT, some by ESA. And we are launching 4 Copernicus missions this year, just to tell you. One is on board NTGS, is Sentinel-4. One is on board METOPSG, Sentinel-5, and then we have 1D, which is the radar mission planned for October, and Sentinel-6B, which is done with NASA. It's an altimetry mission at the end of the year. So you see the really richness, and also for you, the continuity of data that you can rely on in terms of using the data, in terms of having a long perspective. These satellites, they last in average 10 years minimum, and they're done in series. So if you want to use those data, if you want to use it scientifically, if you want to use it, I would say, doing a business out of it, you really have a long-term perspective. That's, I think, extremely important in this context. The data production is huge. We have registered users. There is a platform where you can register as user. I'm sure some of you already registered here. It's been changed a year and a half ago. It's a new system on which you access the data. We were at 700,000 users registered before that. Now with the new system, we're steadily increasing every month, and we are at 330,000 registered users. Of course, all this data supports also the operational Copernicus services, which are managed by the European Commission, where ESA does the putting together the baskets of the data that need to support the various services, the climate one. Here are the next, we call it expansion mission, the next satellites we're building. We're building a indicated CO2 anthropogenic monitoring satellite to be launched in 27. We're building one on Kristel for looking at ice melting. We're building LSTM. And these satellites, of course, are all being conceived not with a technology push, but really with an understanding of the clear needs of the European Union policies and what you need to have in terms of data to support the implementation of this policy. I wanted to show you the application. I think Kati already showed the multitude, and we could talk hours here. If I pass the floor to Gordon even more, but just to give you some examples. We work a lot on agriculture, food security. Agriculture, just to name some example of what we do on agriculture, we do crop estimates, we do land classification, we can do food security in terms of knowing the drought over an area and the production. When the Ukraine war started, we had all the statistics and all the information about the yield production over Ukraine, and the area was not accessible anymore, but we could estimate the production and gave those figures to OECD and all the entities who needed to know what would have been the production estimate, which was actually quite drastically reduced. And we also work with Africa in terms of food security, with FAO and with partner institutions. And last but not least, in this Green Deal agenda plan of the EU, you can also look at rationalization of pesticides. So you can do a lot of things associated to agriculture management and planning. We work on ice monitoring. Of course, ice extent is fundamental for ship routing, but also ice monitoring is essential to understand the impact in terms of variabilities on sea level increase and things like that. And you do that with the radar, but you do that also with altimetry that can see the thickness of the ice. Variables I mentioned. Forest management, I must say, forest management is a hot topic also in Estonia. It's a topic on which there's a long tradition in Europe of developing models, methodologies of assessing the areas deforested, the areas also reforested. We started with Finland 3 decades ago to implement RED and RED Plus legislation with demo projects. Today, it's a worldwide usage of video data in support of forest management and monitoring that is also to the projects that we are organizing. We can look at air pollution. The European Environment Agency estimates that there are about 500,000 people dying every year due to air quality. And those data are provided by ESA also to the European Environment Agency. You could see during COVID the reduction of NO2 over the main cities in Europe. You could see it going back after the restart of the activities in terms of transport and industrial activity. And support to disaster response, of course, we react. We see the extent of the flooding. or the fires. This was the case in Los Angeles in California recently. The scars, assess the damage, but also in case of flooding. And of course, we work a lot on numerical weather prediction and iceberg tracking, and many, many applications which I think are relevant to your country and certainly to the Baltic region and to your region. We have a product called land cover mapping. This is a product that was developed 2 years ago. You see here the example of a tally. This is something which is extremely useful because it uses the land classification of the reference one, and it tells you how the land is used. And this is a product that is used also in terms of stock markets worldwide to assess, the impact of the production of crops in certain regions. It uses Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 data, and really, I think, gives you the feeling that this is done by the agency with companies, of course, worldwide. We also have an example of sea ice tracking in Finland. You see here what you can do. You basically can monitor icebergs. This can be extremely useful. You have the Norwegians who have developed since years already an operational monitoring iceberg tracking system. These are just examples, but give you a feeling of the variety and the numerous applications you can do. Also, algae blooms, and algae blooms is something you can well track from satellites. It's a phenomenon that happens in many regions of the world, not just here, but also it has an impact in terms of tourism, it has an impact in terms of fishing, and these are really other examples of what you can do. And forest management, I mentioned it, this is an example over Germany, but gives you the idea of the type of forest, of the evolution of the forest, of the health of the forest loss, and reforestation. And very soon, with this biomass satellite, you will have the 3D vision over the forest, not just the extension, but really the vision of how they look like. And another one is fishing vessels not tracked. And we have a combination of different sources of AIS, automatic information system. We work with EMSA, the Maritime Safety Agency. We've been working for years on the monitoring of the Mediterranean oil spill pollution, for example, but we also can track when a vessel doesn't want to be looked or seen, that doesn't have the AIS on board. You can combine, instead of the AIS, the satellite mapping and see if the actual vessel is in a place where it should be. So these are means, tools, and demonstration projects that we do. We don't do that for earning, we do it for supporting the wealth of a sector, an industrial sector, which is the European one, which has to be competitive also worldwide. So very often when we develop a product with a company, for example, in Estonia, we also help them opening markets in areas with whom we cooperate. We work a lot in Latin America, Southeast Asia, Africa. So I think there is also this dimension to be looked at beyond the purely national one, but I think a lot of these applications could benefit in collaboration with Esthub. So thanks a lot. And of course, Liias and my colleague, and then we can respond to questions or follow up.
Thank you, Simonetta. Are there any questions from the crowd?
I have a question.
Yes, from online.
Yes, sorry, it was a bit. Thank you so much for a great presentation. It was really interesting. I missed which mission was it where you were able to observe some amount of water in the soil in Valencia?
Yes, it's called SMOS, soil moisture and also salinity. It's a mission that looks at water, hydrology of the terrain, and it's a very important, it's an explorer mission of ESA.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for the question. And thanks again, Simonetta, for taking your time to visit us here. Round of applause again.
So much.
And now to conclude our opening block, we'll now hear a national perspective on innovation from Liias, representing the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications. Here.
Yeah. Good morning, it's late to say to us. But thank you, Simonetta, for the very good talk about what Liisa is doing in the domain. And I will continue giving a perspective on Esthubs, not only what we have done so far, because it's more or less known, more in the perspective in which direction Esthub would develop in the future. So what are our ambitions? Of course, there is zero guarantee that I can say today that we'll 100% go in that way, but of course we are doing our best. The stories about Esthub have been already around for decades. Before I joined the ministry, I remember it was said that we will start something cool like that. And when I joined, it was still in process. Unfortunately, it was back then under a different ministry. It wasn't under the space ministry. Since starting from 2025, it's also under the space ministry. It makes it for us much more easier to hopefully make Esthub great in the future. Just if you go back in history, then it was established in 2019. Back then, Jan Lerner was the PG in Liisa, and I remember the day he came to Estonia to really kick off the activity. But it's already 6 years ago, so it has been a long journey from there. But many things have changed, and also the importance of remote sensing has changed. And back then, maybe it was more questionable. So why are we investing there? Today, it's more clear. And if you read also it's taken from the new coalition agreement, what the new government has written actually. And if we want to make the Estonian, if we want to simplify it and accelerate the Estonian bureaucracy, and make regulations and reports easier, and also to make the government sector itself more efficient. And the only way to achieve it also is remote sensing and Esthub. So if you are not developing government services and remote sensing applications, then it's clear that we will never achieve this efficiency. It's one of the ways how to do it, and it's clear that in the next years, we want to push more developing Esthub, so develop these services further. And what are we planning? Just to give what are we thinking? Some of you in the crowd already know some of the ideas. Is that of course that Esthub, in the ministry we don't have the expertise for remote sensing, and I think it's good that we don't have it, because the people should be in the industry. And but of course, in the government sector, we need also expertise in the remote sensing. And from our perspective, the space team in the ministry thinks that, of course, that the remote sensing expertise in the government sector should be in together with Esthub. It's already there, so we want to even improve and make it even develop further. And Esthub will be also coordinating remote sensing sector from the government perspective. So it will really bring the different parties from academia, private sector, and government sector together to really do some pool. And the Esthub team will be also responsible and giving input for us for the policy development, also how to make, how to create cool initiatives, and also representing as they are doing possibly today, Estonia and of course in the EU programs. So basically Esthub will be the main platform for receiving all the remote sensing data for national, and not only national use, but also broader, especially in the region. So Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania don't have such a platform these days, and of course we are trying to fill also the gap for Latvia and Lithuania, so they can use these services that we are offering, and hopefully we can start also activities in joint activities in the future. Another cool initiative that we are right now working on is the Tallinn test area. Yes. And the point is that today we are only having single imagery, but in the future the government anyway we need to have commercial data. And why should we keep or buy the commercial data only for Estonian government use, but we should also think about how can we make this commercial data available for the industry and academia, so that we can start testing and doing something bigger than only government services, but let the entrepreneurs do some innovation and again develop something new. And so the initial concept is to make this data available around Tallinn, but of course it depends on the conditions how far we can go. So at first we are talking about this so-called Tallinn test area, because here we have the different also conditions: sea, land, forest, etc. So what does it mean? So basically that this Esthub Tallinn test area, so it will be technology and regulatory sandbox. So hopefully we can also help from the regulatory point of view to make use of these remote sensing applications, so they can really be used for measurements and validation. We will provide access to remote sensing data and also spatial data, which is already there. So it's a combination of different data sets. So not only EU data. Esthub will be helping then the industry and academia with prototyping, so processing capabilities, and of course, as I mentioned, commercial data, so in which direction we will have to go anyway, and so expertise and support. Hopefully, we can make available then from Esthub side. Yes. So what are the benefits? So basically, we will help the industry to go to market. So access to data will be easier. We will have more data available, and so Esthub will be also the enabling tool for developing new government services and not only for the Estonian users, but for the users here in the region more in general. So we are trying to fill the gap here in the area, and hopefully it can be the new platform for innovation and for the industry to grow. And especially, I think the main value will be that we can make more information available and let the companies innovate around it. Of course, one of the challenges from the government perspective, where government sector has to improve, is the government as smart customer. So how can we be the first customer for our industry and order the right things? And here together with the European Space Agency, we already have started to test things in space cybersecurity domain. We have been successful, and we are doing many other tests. So hopefully we can also soon test with Esthub, together with Esthub or other government agencies, how to improve the way how we procure. Health innovation, and of course, Esthub is one of our best procurement agencies. Basically, it's the best way how to procure, or one of the best ways how to procure innovation. And the added value for the public, for us from the public sector perspective, is of course we can offer more efficient public services to the end users, for the citizens, and also for the industry, so we can take data-based decisions. We know exactly what's going on in Estonia or in Estonia, so we know should we go left or right, and where should we invest or not. So we will have more information available, which makes it also decisions more understandable. We will be also more ready for crisis, and also in case of different security scenarios, and there's a greater crisis response. And of course, here together with ESA, we are developing many interesting applications for the next years. And as I mentioned before, then government is a smart customer for your applications. I know it's easy to say, but it's one of the most difficult part. Maybe the challenges that we have to face is that how can we procure in the right way and help our industry, our companies, our applications to not only that Estonia is the first and only customer, but we can also continue doing export. And also some of you in the audience are already very good in that, and we want to push further. I don't know if you have checked social media today, then it's worth to go to the Eesti Kosmose Bureau social media site, because there is news about astronaut selection. And you should go to the link and register the astronaut campaign, which is only happening today. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the crowd, maybe? If no, then thank you both, and thank you to all the introductory block speakers. Now we will have a third coffee break until 12:10, and then we will start with the second block where we will focus on data analytics later. It's 12:10, so I think we can continue with our schedule. If you please find a seat. And now we shift our focus more on data analytics and remote sensing processing. And we welcome on the stage Erki Arusoo from Falconers.
Hello, my name is Erki Arusoo. I am from Falconers, and I'm here to talk about our product and development dual-use sensor fusion platform called FORSAIT. Couple of words from our company. We are a small pilot SME with a team consisting mainly of people with engineering or academic backgrounds and specializing in remote sensing, AI, and sensor technologies. We are a spin-off of Taltech Space Sensor, during which time it became clear that that in the near future, more and more satellites are launched into space, which means there will be more and more Earth observation data, and there will be the problem that to get that data down from the satellites will become more and more complicated, and hence our and from that chain of thought came our formulated our mission, which is to solve more scarce for sensing. So there are a couple of the three major domains that we are researching are aerospace, defense, and environment. Mostly we are looking into novel sensors and optimization of AI on hardware, on edge processing, and also we are developing digital multi-sensor digital twin called FORSAIT. The two products that we are developing are one is called Hawkeye, which is in collaboration with the Defense Ministry, under the grant of the Defense Ministry, which is a payload consisting of electro-optical sensor and edge processing. Right now, of course, it's we are doing testings on the drone, but we are planning to move a bit higher, hopefully in the near future to be mature enough to put payload into nanosatellite, for example. And the second project, the product is remote sensing sensor fusion platform, FORSAIT, which is, well, as it says, a platform to fuse data coming from different sensors. Yeah, a couple of words about that. The FORSAIT is mainly towards use sensor fusion platform. At the moment, it has 2 layers. The first layer consists of satellite data, which at the moment we have integrated Copernicus Sentinel-1 and 2 data, and onto which we can apply different analytic tools to detect anomalies, various kinds of anomalies. The point, I would say, the goal is to find the algorithms and AI algorithms that are as sensor agnostic as possible. So the platform itself could be a place where you can integrate the different kinds of sensors. For example, at the moment, the second layer consists of drone data, which you can fuse with satellite data. Also, we have in pipelines to integrate, for example, pay-per-view data from Airbus satellites, which has also like a bit higher resolution than Copernicus. Yeah, so it would so it would be like that for its first layer would be like as Copernicus data would be like an early warning or some that would give you pinpoints where would something suspicious could be going on, and then you could have a mission or some how to say, you can have a higher resolution on some critical areas, which is, for example, with Airbus data or with the drone data or something like that. Use cases that we are looking into mostly in defense. We have selected out which our multispectral payload can tackle are minefields, then different kinds of camouflage that are designed to trick thermal imaging and even shielded thermal signature or infrared signature, and that's why we try to look ways to use multispectral imaging that doesn't use thermal to detect those in the nature by, I would say, taking out the non-alive from a live environment, or let's say like that. And also there are decoys nowadays that do this thing that they show a thermal signature that looks like a tank, for example, and there's also that's also the way how to right now fool the sensors, and also that's the place where multispectral imaging could be a countermeasure against that. And also, once the defense problem becomes a civilian problem, once the war ends, there's a whole lot of fields with mines planted and thrown upon that need to be detected and demined. Just a brief demonstration how those sensor agnostic algorithms could work is like, for example, detecting green on green, then, for example, detecting white on white. Okay, so when we go further on, this is just a small project that we had where we used the FORSAIT sensor fusion platform to integrate different country US sensors from Estonian and Dutch partners to put together a country US system. So it's just something we're proud of. Where we have to implement. Okay. So, and when we go to civilian use cases, we talked with the end users. We detected that there are for example, in agriculture, there are main expenditures that are done are on fertilizers and pesticides, and it would be very helpful that if there could be more precise tools for precision farming, so you can how to say you can say more, you could more confidently divide the fertilizers where they are needed, and the pesticides as well, and also that with the pesticides there was a time critical component at place where, for example, Copernicus data may be in a disadvantage because due to the, for example, it doesn't have a flyby at the moment, or unfortunately the ice cloudy. So that's the way where you could use also the integrated platform. If the satellite data doesn't have the opportunity to register at the moment the image, then you could have a flyby with a drone, for example, or with any other vehicle flying vehicle. And of course, the other thing was what they mentioned was when there's, like, for example, the grass harvesting for silos, there's also very small time limit when they want to pinpoint exactly the time when the grass is the greenest. But if the in situ modes that they are using now, when you take the sample and take it to the lab, there's like a 4-day time delay, and if there are a possibility to narrow it down even, it would be a very helpful for the end user, of course, as well. So, and the second civilian use case we are looking into is forestry. We have a project under an environment investment center, where with the end user being a Tanzanian entity called Afori. And then, for example, in Tanzania, every year about 10 million hectares are lost due to wildfires. And also there are, even beside the wildfires, there are problems with pests and disease and illegal logging and invasive species. And with them, we are developing various tools various analytical tools to combat those problems. So yeah, like we said, that we are for agriculture pilot customer, we are using Copernicus data as first layer, and then we do flybys with the drones for second layer for time critical use cases. And also with the forestry pilot customer from Tanzania, we are developing analytical tools to for detection of unaccounted activities. We develop a way for them to have a centralized platform where they could report the illegal activities and by reporting, and also we are developing fire simulation toolkit for prevention and also for managing if the wildfires are have already started. Then you can use different tools to see what would help where to manage the area, for example. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Very amazing project. So I wanted to ask in the thermal imaging, when you fly under clouds with the drones, do these clouds affect the far infrared band?
We try to we ourselves don't do thermal imaging right now. we look into the ways that we look into the if you say right now we are using multispectral imaging that does not use thermal imaging. Just yes, so because to find ways, let's say, to find those anomalies that are proved by thermal imaging. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Any more questions from the crowd? Thank you. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty hungry. But before we can go on longer with the lunch break, we have one more presentation. And this one comes from Sweden by Jesper Dejby from the Research Institutes of Sweden. So Jesper, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely try to keep time here as I'm pretty hungry myself. Let's see, I'll share my screen. That works, right?
Yes.
Yes, and yes. So as you mentioned, I'm from Research Institutes of Sweden, RISE, and I work with the project Digital Earth Sweden, which is a collaboration with the Swedish National Space Agency. So what do we provide? I think Kati described earlier this morning. She described Esthub really well, and we do something similar, but for Sweden. So we have a large archive with satellite data, roughly 500 terabytes right now. Sorry, there's a lot of ambient noise from the room. Is it possible to mute the room? Yeah, thank you. Yes, so we do something similar. We have roughly 500 terabytes of data right now, and the data is stored at the RISE ICE data center in Luleå. This is important for our partners and the people we collaborate with, because that's a security aspect, that the data is stored on Swedish soil. We provide tools for analysis, processing, and storage of satellite and other GIS data, and we will open source this in the future. Some of the things we have are already open sourced. We build this on open source tools as well, such as OpenEO, Open Data Cube, and initiatives such as Stack. And we provide cloud-optimized UTIFs and other data formats as well. This is available for the public. I will provide some links. You can go and try out our platform after this workshop if you want. We have Sweden and surroundings and its surroundings as our primary focus. So you will not find data on Estonia, for example. Yeah, I was asked to have a demo, so I'll jump into the demo. So as we saw on you can see this, right? Oh, now you're muted, but I'm assuming that you can see this. I'll make it a bit bigger, so that it's clear. So as the previous presentation showed, we also use Python mostly, and we work in Jupyter notebooks when doing analysis. So I have a Sentinel-2 image here from 2023, and what I want to do is that I want to check the bounding box of this, and it's a small image, so we'll check it. And yeah, so this is somewhere in Sweden, a patch of forest, and this is a polygon that we, or an image, like a small excerpt that we got from the Swedish Agricultural Agency. So we know for a fact there is some forest, like some land here that's owned by someone and that's actively used in some way. So we pick out the bounds, the bounding box from this. We also want to transform this from the Swedish projection that the Swedish, like, what do you say, that we use in Sweden, called SVRF 99, to the World Geodetic System from 1984. So we do a reprojection of the coordinates, and I also have some agricultural land here that I picked out from before, and that's also somewhere in Sweden. So I run this, and now comes the part where I think, like the parts I went through now, you're all probably familiar with, even if I don't know if you've seen it in Python code before, but it's things that I think all of you are probably more experts than me in. But now comes the processing part, which I think is the meat and bones of this. So we're using OpenEO, and that's a client. So what we do is that we authenticate and authorize towards that client, and then we declare what type of analysis we want to do. So let's do that. Let's see if, yeah. So now we can see here that I've run this code before, so it remembers me, but we have a single sign-on authentication flow for this, for universities connected to the EGI service, and for research institutes as well. So if you're connected to EGI, then you can log into Digital Earth Sweden with single sign-on. And now we are connected to the Digital Earth Sweden API, but we haven't done anything yet. So we can start by fetching the collections that we have, and collections are basically data sets. So the collections or data sets that we have right now that are available to the general public is Sentinel-2 level 1C data, Sentinel-2 level 2A data, and the Sentinel-2 level 2A experimental product, where we have tried to basically use the Swedish digital elevation model together with some data on aerosol optical thickness to improve on the level 2A product that ESA provides for Swedish purposes specifically, because, yeah, the Swedish, what do you say? Yeah, the Swedish land, forest, and mountains and all, it's pretty different. It's pretty different from the rest of Europe. We have a lot of mountains, we have a lot of hills, we have a lot of lakes, and we have a lot of islands. So and a lot of water in general. So yes, so there are some specific challenges there. Then we define some time steps or a time series. We are going to look at one day, and going to look at a whole summer as well, summer of 2024. Then we define some type. Then we define the type of analysis that we want to do. We do this with a function called load collection, and this is basically just defining what we want to target. We want to target the Sentinel-2 level 2A data. We want to target this specific bounding box that we have fetched from further up in the analysis. We want to target specific bands, and we also want to, for the longer time period, we want to filter out the cloud coverage, and this is the cloud coverage from the metadata of the level 2 Sentinel-2 level 2A data that European Space Agency provides. So yes, and we've chosen here that the cloud coverage should be below 20% on average. So we declare this, and to be clear here, nothing has been run yet. We just declare things now. We just say, okay, this is what we should do. And here we can build an index. We got an excellent run through on the indexes before, so I won't spend too much time on what NDVI is. But we build such a index. And now comes the execution. Now is actually where we tell the API do calculation. And then the calculation does not happen locally on my computer. It happens in the cluster that we are currently hosting at this ICE data center that I mentioned in my presentation earlier. So now I will send an API call with this collection that we have defined that will execute what I've defined and send something back. So that will take a small moment. Hopefully that will also work. Live demos are can be, exciting. There's usually ghosts in live demos, but I'm safe so far. So now we have some type of result, and we can plot that, and we get that as bytes. So we need to handle that as well. Yeah, and we can turn the axis on here as well if you want to see like what happened here. And here, if you're observant, you see that we are actually not in the world geodetic system anymore, and that's because we on default we transformed the result to sphere F99 because that's what our partners want. But this is something, of course, that you can turn off. Yes, and now we go to the batch job. So now we want to do this on scale. We define a job that's going to calculate this. We use this summer NDVI. So now this load collection up here. Sorry for scrolling around here. This one has a longer temporal extent that we defined here from April to September, and where cloud coverage should on average be below 20%. So we create a job here and we execute that job as a batch job. And again, now when we run this, execute here, then the API call is sent to Digital Earth Sweden and processed there. And then we can fetch the result afterwards. So then this process is run. We can wait for it to finish, but I'm running out of time. So I'm thinking maybe I should cheat a little bit here. Let's see. Okay, no, it was quick. Great. So we have green here, status finished. So we actually got the result, and this result is some type of NDVI. Okay, so let's look at that. We get our results, and from the result, we get the assets that we have, which is basically the UTIFs that we have calculated. And then we actually download the assets that we have produced to local machine. Let's skip the logs, but you can look at logs if you want more detailed information on what has happened. And here is some files from a previous run that I did. So let's just plot those and see how it looks over time. Okay, so here it seems that we don't have a lot of forestry here in the red zone here. in these 4 images, and then we actually have some clouds in the other images, I believe. So here, especially for image 6, you would need to do like a pixel level analysis and maybe do a more some more like look into why this image is showing clouds, or if it's something else that is making this NDVI index not come out as expected. And similar to this, I must be honest, and I don't actually know if this is also a cloud or something else that makes this image hard to interpret. I haven't looked. Yeah, so we could do this for agriculture as well. I will not go through the whole process for agriculture. I just want to show that you can basically do this for any type of application that you want. And yeah, we can plot this. And this is this agricultural land that I picked out before this presentation. Okay, so that was the demo. I have 3 minutes to go. So I'll just say really quickly that on the agricultural part, there's typically that's on a lower spatial, like it basically grass is smaller than a tree. So we have been in a project together with the Swedish Board of Agriculture to detect pasture grazing. And this, of course, is really difficult to do with only a index. So here we have received polygons from the Swedish Board of Agriculture at different locations in Sweden and then we picked data from 2 seasons, 2022, 2024. And we picked out the polygons and the data we need from Digital of Sweden, and then we have used that to train a AI model to actually detect grazing. So I don't have time to go through this in detail, but the basics here are that we use multiple convolutional layers, and then on the Sentinel-2 level 2A data, we reshape and vectorize the spatial features, and then we do a binary classifier from that, where we try to detect grazing. And of course, the Swedish Board of Agriculture has been helping here to point out in the images what is grazing and what is not grazing. So this is an example on how you can take a fairly simple analysis and then extend that. Okay, can we see something more? Can we see more fine-grained patterns? And preliminary results are that we can, that this is actually possible with Sentinel-2 level 2A data. We have some links here. I'm happy to send this presentation afterwards. You can, for example, look at code examples, and I can also upload this example that I ran here to this GitHub, and some more links to our homepage and the different products that we provide, and a VMS service as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesper. Are there any questions from the crowd? Or everyone wants to go and eat? Seems so. Huh? Yes.
Yeah, one question. So do you think that in that image you saw, like, well, probably a huge cloud, would you like specifically download that image and just inspect it yourself, that case?
No, I would probably try to create some type of cloud masking process, a bitwise. So when I say process, OpenEO defines a function that does some type of calculation as a process. So I would probably try to define a process that does some type of cloud masking on a pixel level, and run that to filter rather than going on the metadata. Or, I mean, there is a scene classification layer that you can use as well. Of course, you can pick out that band and use that as well to filter on pixel level. And that you could also probably, I haven't actually tried that, to define that as a process. Like, you could just fetch the whole image with the band, of course, and then run some type of just matrix operation to filter out the pixels that you want. But maybe you could actually run that like on the platform instead of locally as a process to filter on the scene classification layer that you get with the ESA product, and then get back a result. I haven't actually tried that, but you can definitely do it locally. Yep.
All right, thanks. And thanks again to all of the second talk speakers. A round of applause. Till 2 o'clock, and then we'll be back with a final block about machine learning applications. So, run a break until 2. To get us underway, my good friend Kristel Saul will represent Gscan and tell us more about the company.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristel Saul. My name is Gscan, and I'm here today to talk about how we use machine learning in the field of muon tomography. Muon tomography has several different use cases, but to sum up with one sentence, what Gscan is doing is to say that we are using naturally occurring radiation to scan bridges. Now, what does that mean? You have to point it at something. Oops. Okay. We're constantly surrounded by background radiation, which consists of all different types of particles, some of which you might be more familiar with, such as protons, neutrons, electrons. But then you also have a bunch of other subatomic particles for which you need the whole Greek alphabet to give names to. And one of these particles is called a muon. It's a bit similar to an electron. They have the same charge, but muons are 200 times heavier, and this makes them much more penetrating. They can pass through tens of centimeters of concrete without being absorbed, and the very high energetic muons have even been registered kilometers below Earth's surface. So essentially, there isn't any type of material that can 100% effectively shield from them. And this makes them very, very useful for scanning thick and dense objects, such as bridges. And that's exactly what we're doing. So on these images, you can see our detector units, which are called periscopes. And the way that we measure things is that we place the detectors above and below the object. And then we just wait. Because the particles are flying around us anyways. It's just our job to
measure them, and then use that data to reconstruct the volume of interest between the detectors. Why are we scanning bridges? Most of the stone bridges are between ages 50 to 70 and they're reaching the end of their lifetime. A lot of them can be in critical condition. The same applies to bridges all across Europe and North America as well. And it's estimated that around 25% of the bridges currently used might collapse in the next decade or so. So it's a critical problem, and there doesn't exist a reliable method that could allow us to see what's going on inside concrete. As you might know, concrete is actually used to shield from all types of radiation. So that's kind of the purpose of it, that particles cannot go through it. But our detectors consist of 3 detector plates. Each of the plate is covered with scintillating fibers. It's a type of material that produces a light signal when a charged particle passes through it. And we collect that light signal, convert it into electrical signal, and that in turn is converted into coordinates in 3D space. And that's the initial raw data that I get to work with. So from these coordinates, they aren't very useful by themselves, but we can calculate the entering and exiting direction of the particle. And then we can also calculate the scattering angle of the particle. And this gives us the initial estimation about this particle's potential trajectory through the volume that we were scanning. And if you have these types of parameters for tens of millions of particles, then you can basically reduce this problem into a classical tomography problem where you need to reconstruct the image between the detectors. There are some classical approaches on how to do it. We have developed our own in-house methods that work best with this type of muon tomography data. And if you apply that reconstruction algorithm, then you get something like this. Not very impressive at a first glance. You don't know what you're looking at, right? So this is not an actual bridge. The bridge measurements are still going on. But this was a 0.5 meter thick concrete block, kind of like a test body that we measured on site in Dejby near Tartu. And it was built for our testing purposes with various types of reinforcement elements. So you have here ducts, anchorings, rebars, strands, and it was our job to see them and then to also analyze their condition. It's a pretty noisy image, and in order to really understand what you're looking at, you need 2 types of expertise. You have to be familiar with this type of images and be adjusted to the noise levels, and you also need to have domain-specific knowledge about the inside of what you're actually looking at. Because if you don't know what a reinforcement element has looked like and what are the potential anomalies there, then this image tells you nothing. Now let's see if this video also works. Yeah. So to make these objects come into life a bit better, previously it was just 2D slides of the reconstructed 3D volume. Here in the video, you can see how we move up and down and left to right inside of the object. And then you can see my favorite ones are the spirals around the duct. Can I play it again? Yeah. So you get a better feel of what is inside of that concrete block actually. But that's still not enough to perform a thorough analysis on it. And you can think of this problem similar that they face in the medical field. So radiologists, they work with CT scans and have to look at tens, if not hundreds, of images per day, and that's very, very costly and time-consuming. And how they approach it in the medical field is through automation. They want to detect any potential anomalies in human bodies, such as tumors, through machine learning approaches. One of them is segmentation. So we want to capture only the visual details in the scan and discard the background. In our case, that means separating the concrete from the seal elements, which are the ones that we're actually interested in. And that's exactly what we're doing. So here is the segmentation of that noisy 3D image that you just saw. We have extracted here 5 different types of ducts and the rebars and other metal elements surrounding it. The segmentation itself is nice to have, but that still doesn't give you full information about the condition of the ducts that you're interested in. But once we have separated the ducts from each other and the other surroundings, then we can apply our material analysis on top of these objects one by one. There are several things that we can measure, for example, the corrosion levels, the breakages in the metal strands that run inside the duct, and also if there's any missing routing. These all affect the lifetime of the bridge. And this is what we are now visualizing here. So based on all these features, we calculate a final score and present this in a nice traffic light color scheme, indicating that the green one, the green one is in good condition. The yellow ones probably have some minor anomalies to them. And then the red one is in critical condition and requires further attention. Now, this is something that has never been done before. We are the pioneers in this field. We just measured an operational bridge a few weeks back on Padre Mountain. Operational bridge means that cars were actually driving across that bridge while we were scanning it. And hopefully in a few months, we are able to showcase the results. Having worked with that data for the past few weeks, it's pretty promising and very, very cool, and also really useful. And through this, we can contribute to road safety. And because of this, we don't have to break down bridges prematurely. If the structures are still intact, then we can. The Transportation Administration can direct their resources into maintaining the bridges that actually need maintaining them. So I think I will stop here now. Thank you for coming back from lunch to listen to me. And my name is Kristel, and I am now questions.
This murals danger of bridges.
No,
There's so many.
that's the beauty of it. We don't have this kind of like external radiation source. The particles are going through us as we're speaking here. They're naturally occurring, and this system is fully passive, so we just register what's already there.
How long does it take to scan this kind of quick block that you did?
It's around 7 to 10 days. So if you compare it to a CT scan, which takes minutes, it sounds like a lot. But if you then think about the lifetime of a bridge, it's not going anywhere. It's probably already in critical condition. So it doesn't really matter if you wait for these 7 days or not. Nothing exceptional is going to happen to the bridge, but the information that you can gather with these few weeks is absolutely crucial. This is also why we're focusing on large infrastructure objects that are not going anywhere, and we can make the best use of this very scarce radiation. There's a question over here.
Yes, I got the answer, but can you make it faster?
Well, we cannot control the amount of flux, so this is one of our limitations. But we can reduce the scan time depending on what kind of resolution we want to achieve and what's the specific use case. Concrete is very thick, and does absorb the low energy particles. We use the high energy particles there. But for example, we have another project which is related more to security use cases, and there we are able to get results with 10 to 15 minutes of the detection of illegal substances in packages that go through airports or border control. So it's the resolution there is much different. Here, this here has a resolution of 3 millimeter voxel side length. So it's pretty high resolution. For the security use cases, we can settle with like 10 millimeters or even 20 millimeters. Especially if we're scanning, one example is a sea container, which can contain hundreds of kilograms of cocaine, for example. So we are able to detect that with like 10 to 20 minutes. Project that we're finalizing in the second half of June this year, actually. Pretty promising. Yes.
We're also thinking about analyzing the bridge pillars.
Bridge pillars.
So when they were doing stamina and the collapse and all bridge bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you do that?
Well, I have done it, but you can do whatever. You just have to place the detectors accordingly and then scan it. The flux is most effective if we measure it like this, because majority of the flux is coming upside down. If you place them vertically like that, then this extends the measurement time, but the flux isn't going anywhere, so it's kind of longer.
Thank you, Kristel. And it will be only logical to end this Esthub Vision Day with one of our own presenters. So from our Esthub team, Nikita Murin, please.
Hello everyone. My name is Nikita Murin. I'm part of Esthub team. About challenges and opportunities in cluster computing. What is Esthub processing cluster? How it is structured for technical people, would be good to know how to create the processor on the cluster or how to do it in Docker containers. Our current advantages and limitations of Esthub processing cluster. Then jump into a use case that I experienced by myself in doing one of the analysis from the computer to the cluster. Then we'll talk about Jupyter Hub developments and our future plans. So, Esthub processing cluster is a hosted data processing service. People can use it in three options. One is graphical user interface, Canvas. There are preset processors for satellite data. You can use them and process large amounts of data without downloading them. Second option is building your own processor in Esthub cluster, which is Linux environment. I will focus more on this option. And also we are developing Jupyter Hub in one of our projects. Now, more technical people can catch some keywords, what has to be done to create processor on the cluster, and the less technical people can be happy and write their technical teams that it's easy, let's move to Esthub. So, Esthub cluster infrastructure in general it consists of two buckets. SanDisk array, which is data storage with a private cloud of virtual machines. One of virtual machines is each production tool, which is used to create requests and send requests to processing cluster. And the processing cluster on the right side is a distributed compute nodes system, which also serves as Earth observation data storage for direct access. It means that all the heaviest data, Sentinel images, Landsat 8 images, are stored directly on this cluster. No need to download things. Have them directly. This slide is about creating a processor, mostly in Python. Actually, a processor can be anything which is executable on Linux. It can be written in compiled languages, C, C++, Fortran, or it can be Java, Python, R, Bash. But we will focus on Python because it's mostly used for observation data analysis. To create processor, to go first to computing nodes, actually upload previously created local computer content package. And then you have to create or copy all the scripts what you need for processing and create a proper script. And then go to virtual machine parts, create an instant directory, create a setup file to use Esthub colors and create your request with all the needed parameters what you want to process. If you want to use Docker image, then in virtual machine side it's the same. Instance directory, setup file, and request. Compute nodes, they also have to build a Docker image outside the cluster, upload it to the nodes, and install the processor package and the script to run inside the container and the proper script. Now, a little bit about advantages and disadvantages. First of all, the service is free of charge. Actually, it was meant for governmental institutions and scientific institutions. Actually, also private companies can use the cluster for prototyping purposes. Means that until you start selling your product, you can try and develop it in using our infrastructure. Cluster has possibility of parallel processing. I will talk about it later in the use case. And it has direct access to the Earth observation data, which is like fastest access to the data which you can see on the slide. But of course, there are some limitations currently. I say currently because we are working on these points to make them, to move them from limitations to advantages. Esthub cluster doesn't have internet access, and that's why we have to build online environments and images, Docker images, on computers, and then upload it. It is command line based environment, so you have to get familiar first with Linux and the Esthub structure, start working with it, and actually possibility, but a bit complicated process to use some specific data like orthophoto slider, vector data, any kind of geospatial data. And in my use case, I use this type of data. I have to upload it first. And now it's the use case, which I experienced myself. As a background, I feel like I'm a beginner in programming and developed this analysis of terrain model to detect ditches, which are not in topography database yet. And actually, in local computer, it was a bunch of GDAL, Saga, different bash commands, and the Python file. It was not fully automated because I had to start a new command when the last command ended. And it took 47 days on the local machine. And actually, the reason why I had to move to the cluster that my local machine started to overheating. And the initial data is digital terrain model and database data. And to optimize the process for Esthub, all the bash commands and the Python files were converted to separate files. Also, wrapper script was added and the conda package was uploaded to the cluster website. And all the parameters which needed to start the process, they go to virtual machine to the processing request. Now, if a new portion of data comes from aircraft, then we create the digital terrain model for Water of Estonia, upload the fresh data to the cluster, create the processing request, and relax. Then the script splits the 1 quarter of Estonia into 25 tiles and runs in parallel all the scripts and the Python code. And it does it in less than 1 hour instead of 7 days. It's much easier. Now I'll speak about Jupyter Hub, which is our latest development. Not fully ours, but because I think you all know Jupyter notebooks, at least technical people. So it has all the advantages and disadvantages. First of all, it has a connection to the internet, so you can use the WFS services for your data. It also has a connection to the raw Earth observation data, Sentinel, Landsat, and so on. Apart from Jupyter notebooks is that you can see both the code and the results. It's a cell-level code execution, and it's much more user-friendly interface. But it also has limitations. Currently, it has less computation power and no parallel processing yet. Why I'm saying yet? Because in our future plans, we want to connect Jupyter Hub to a processing cluster, so it has a user-friendly interface as a Jupyter, and it has the same power as a processing cluster. Additionally, we want to put to our processing cluster GPU nodes to make it possible or suitable for deep learning applications to run on the cluster. And it's important for users to know that everybody wants more data sources for processing cluster. Yes, we would like to add also orthophotos, ALS data, geospatial data, which is available, and commercial satellite data. That's all. Thank you.
In time.
Then it will be ready.
As soon as possible.
You talk about open geospatial data, living or is it like included calling geospatial data in Amazon 3 buckets or even European Environmental Agency repositories.
It should be possible to connect to the Amazon. I meant more like first is our data, which will have topographic databases, photos, LiDAR, also other institutions of Estonia. Pretty much data, which could be nice to have.
I think this is the second time today that it's mentioned that maybe next half there will be available some kind of commercial satellite data. Is there any specific source already in mind, or any dates, or any insights into this perspective?
Answer. I think will be first of them will be Airbus.
Probably yes.
Probably. I can't say more about it. It will not be full cover of Estonia. It will be just one batch of data for some area in Estonia for everybody to paste the data from commercial satellites and to try to create some prototypes.
Yes, online. Jesper.
Yes. Thank you for a very nice presentation. Could you clarify on direct access? Do you download the data, or do you have some way of directly piping the data from?
Direct access means that the data is distributed on the processing nodes. It's in the same place where the processing is going on.
Okay, so you download, because it was an impressive list of data sets that you had, but you download all that data.
Yeah, we have this data in the cluster already.
Okay, so you must have, I don't know, a couple of petabytes of data then, I guess. Nice. I can ask another question if there is no more questions from the room.
Yep, go for it.
You mentioned that you have Dockerized processes. Would it be possible to deploy any of the things that you have developed on a cluster, like a Kubernetes cluster or like a cloud cluster or something like this? Do you know?
No, I'm not so technical person,
Yeah.
but you can write to us.
Yeah.
And we will answer.
Yeah, I will do that then. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nikita. Round of applause. So that's pretty much it. And that wraps up our Esthub Vision Day. I would like to thank our organizational team. So Cheli, Nikita, Kaia, and Ani. A big round of applause for all of them. Speakers and got some bit of inspiration today, and we'll see you at the next event. Thank you.
Thank you.